In 1623, the village of Blackmore vanished. Not a single soul remained. No bodies, no answers. Only whispers of a masked figure who stalked the streets during the plague. A doctor who promised miracles but delivered nightmares. Centuries later, a young historian named Clara Beckett would uncover his secret and wish she hadn't. Clara's hands trembled as she flipped through her ancestors' journal. The pages were brittle, stained with what looked like dried blood. Sketches of a plague doctor filled the margins. A beaked mask, tattered cloak, eyes glowing like embers. The last entry froze her. The amulet is his anchor. Destroy it or he returns. Her brother James had vanished days ago, his final text a blurry photo of the same journal. Clara, it's real. Blackmore is real. Now she stood at the edge of the cursed ruins, flashlight shaking in her grip. The air reeked of rot. Crumbling cottages leaned like tombstones, and the wind carried whispers. Begging whispers. Just stories, she muttered, stepping over a rusted iron gate. But the journal's warnings echoed louder. The doctor doesn't heal. He traps. A low growl slithered from the shadows. Clara spun, her light catching something inhuman. A figure with no face, limbs twisted backward, crawling from a well. She ran, stumbling into a decaying church. The door slammed behind her. Her flashlight flickered, revealing carvings on the wall. The plague doctor holding an amulet, surrounded by screaming souls. "James, where are you?" she cried. A wheezing laugh echoed. "Your brother begged too, before I improved him." The plague doctor stood in the doorway, mask cracked, red eyes burning. Clara's blood turned to ice. He lunged and everything went black. She woke in a cellar lit by sickly green candles. Jars of organs lined the walls. Chained to the floor was James, his face half melted, one eye milky white. "Clara? Destroy the amulet. It's the source of his power." The doctor's clawed hand struck James silent. Immortality is a gift for those who serve. Clara's gaze locked onto the altar. The amulet pulsed, a black gem oozing darkness. She lunged, smashing it with a rock. A shrieking wind erupted. Ghostly faces swirled, wailing as the doctor's mask shattered. His body crumbled to ash, but his laughter lingered. "You freed me, now I need a new vessel." Black mist surged into Clara's mouth. She screamed, but it was too late. Dawn broke over Blackmore. Clara stood at the village's edge, sunlight glinting off a beaked mask. Her eyes burned red. Somewhere, a journal's final page fluttered in the wind. "The cure is the curse." Clara Beckett sat alone in her dimly lit apartment, the flickering glow of her laptop casting long shadows across the room. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled through the news article for the 100th time. Local man vanishes near Blackmore ruins. Her brother, James, had been missing for 3 days. The police had given up, but Clara couldn't. Not when she had found his journal. The leather-bound book lay open on her desk, its pages yellowed and brittle. The handwriting was jagged, frantic, as if the author had been racing against time. Clara's eyes scanned the words. "The plague doctor is no healer. His cure is a curse. The amulet binds the soul. Destroy it or he returns." She flipped the page, her breath catching in her throat. A crude sketch stared back at her, a tall cloaked figure with a beaked mask and glowing red eyes. The plague doctor. Clara's mind raced. James had always been obsessed with local legends, but this was different. He had gone to Blackmore to prove the stories were just that, stories. But now he was gone, and this journal was the only clue she had. She slammed the book shut, her resolve hardening. If James was out there, she would find him. Even if it meant facing the horrors of Blackmore herself. The village of Blackmore was a graveyard. Crumbling cottages leaned precariously, their windows shattered and doors hanging off rusted hinges. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the only sound was the distant cawing of crows. Clara stepped over the collapsed iron gate, her flashlight cutting through the oppressive darkness. The journal was tucked safely in her bag, its weight a constant reminder of what she was up against. "James," she called, her voice echoing eerily through the ruins. "Where are you?" There was no answer. Only the wind, whispering through the dead trees like a warning. She pressed on, her boots crunching on broken glass and splintered wood. The deeper she went, the more she felt it, the wrongness of this place. It was as if the village itself was alive, watching her, waiting for her to make a mistake. A low growl shattered the silence. Clara froze, her flashlight darting toward the sound. Behind her, something moved, a shadowy figure crawling out of a well, Its limbs were twisted, its face blank. "Oh God," Clara whispered, backing away. The creature lunged, its movements jerky and unnatural. Clara turned and ran, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't stop until she reached the relative safety of a crumbling church. The church was a shell of its former self. The pews were overturned, the altar cracked and stained. Clara barricaded the door with a heavy wooden beam, her hands shaking. "Just stories," she muttered to herself. "It's just a ghost town.